What if Aemond Targaryen claimed both Vermithor and Vhagar and rode into the Dance of the Dragons as the deadliest rider who ever lived? Let's explore this alternate timeline together in the video. By the middle of the year 130 after the Conqueror, the Dance of the Dragons had already devoured a generation, for Princess Rhaenys and her red Meleys had burned and fallen at Rook's Rest, and Prince Lucerys and little Arrax had been torn out of the storm over Shipbreaker Bay in the death that began it all, and Prince Jacaerys and Vermax had drowned together in the slaughter at the Gullet, and King Aegon the Second lay broken in a hidden room with half his body burned black and his golden Sunfyre crippled beside him. In the king's absence, it was his brother who held the true power of the crown, Aemond Targaryen, Prince Regent, ruling from the black and broken halls of Harrenhal with the largest dragon in the world coiled around the tower beneath his feet. And then a raven came down out of the night, and the word it carried would change everything, for it spoke of the riderless dragons sleeping in the dark beneath Dragonstone, and of the call the blacks meant to send out, summoning bastards of the dragon's blood to climb upon those sleeping giants and turn them into engines of war. The prince read it 3 times by candlelight, and he set it down very slowly, and he did not call for the maester, and he did not call for his guard, he called for the witch.
You read it 3 times, my prince. I counted. A man reads a thing once to know it, and twice to be sure of it, and a 3rd time only when he has already decided to do something he can never take back. So it is decided already. Tell me what it is.
There are dragons sleeping under Dragonstone, Vermithor among them, the Bronze Fury, the mount of the old king himself, second only to Vhagar in all the world. 27 years he has lain in the dark with no hand to hold him, and now the blacks mean to call up every soot-fingered bastard with a drop of the dragon's blood and set one of them upon his back and call that an army and aim it at me.
And so the prince will fly out and burn the bastards before they can climb. That is a small ambition for a man who reads a raven 3 times. You did not need to send the maester away to tell me you mean to kill peasants.
I do not mean to burn the bastards, Alice. I mean to take the dragon.
You already have the largest dragon in the world. The whole of Westeros lies awake at night, listening for her wings on the wind. Lords bar their gates at the sight of a cloud shaped wrong. Why, in the name of all the gods, would a man who owns the largest dragon in the world want a second one?
Because the largest dragon in the world is old. Vhagar has flown since before the conquest was finished, Alice. She is a mountain that breathes, and one day, sooner than fools believe, something will be larger than a mountain, or she will simply lie down in the mud and not rise, and the man who staked the whole of his house on her single back will stand on the ground looking up at an empty sky. I have watched what a single dragon can and cannot do for a year now. I have learned her every limit, and every limit she has is the same limit, the limit of being one thing in one place.
And 2 dragons do not have that limit.
2 dragons are a different animal entirely. One dragon is a sword. You may swing it where you choose, but it is in your hand or it is nowhere. And while you cut with it in the east, the whole of the west goes free. 2 dragons are not 2 swords, 2 dragons are a net. And a war, Alice, was always going to be won by the first man clever enough and cruel enough to stop swinging a sword and start casting a net.
You speak of nets and swords, as though the realm were a fish pond and not a slaughter yard. There are men dying out there in their thousands for your brother's crown, my prince. Rook's Rest, where the old princess and her red dragon burned and fell. The Gullet, where the queen's eldest drowned with his dragon in the salt. Shipbreaker Bay, where this all began, where you sent a boy and his little dragon into a storm. Whole houses have been bled white for one chair.
And every one of those deaths brought us nothing, Alice, because every one of them was a single sword swung a single time and then drawn back. The old princess fell at Rook's Rest, and the war did not end. My nephew fell out of the storm over Shipbreaker Bay, and the war only grew. Jacaerys drowned at the Gullet, and still the queen reaches for the throne. We have been trading giants one for one, like a drunkard wagering his last coppers a single throw of the dice at a time. And a man who wagers that way always walks home with empty hands. I do not mean to wager any longer. I mean to own the table, and the dice, and the coin, and the men who deal it.
And you believe one more giant buys you the table?
I believe one more giant is the difference between a hammer and a net. and I have already told you which one wins. A hammer can only strike the thing in front of it. A net takes everything inside it at once and leaves it nowhere to run. That is what the realm has never seen, Alice, not since the conquest. Not a dragon, 2 dragons held by one will, closing on the world from 2 sides at the very same hour.
A man may love one dragon, my prince. The gods are seldom kind enough to let him love 2.
I did not say I loved Vhagar. I said I ride her. And you, of all the people in this ruin, should be able to hear the difference. I have never in my life loved a thing that could not be made to serve me. The Bronze Fury served the wisest king who ever sat the throne for 50 years, and then he served no man at all for a generation. And now I will wake him, and he will serve again, and the realm will look up one grey morning and see 2 of the 3 greatest dragons that ever drew breath flying beneath a single banner for the first time since Aegon and his sisters came out of the smoking east.
And if he kills you in the dark, the histories are not kind on this point. They say the Bronze Fury is the surest death on that island, that he has eaten more would-be riders than the scorpions on every wall in the Crownlands put together. There will be no songs for a prince of the dragon's blood, swallowed in a cave where not one living soul could see how bravely he died.
Then I will give him no cause to swallow me. I have done this once already, witch. I climbed the dragon mont as a boy with a torch in my hand and a certainty in my chest that the world had given me nothing else, and I put my bare hand on the largest dragon that has ever lived, and she did not burn me. I learned that day the one thing no blacksmith and no kitchen scullion will ever learn in time. I learned the exact half of a breath in which a dragon decides whether the small thing before it is kin or whether it is meat. The bastards will not know that breath. I have lived inside it.
You are very certain for a man with one eye.
I gave the eye to buy the certainty. It was the best bargain I have ever made, and I have made many. Ready the boat. We sail for Dragonstone before the Blacks can send their first raven, and I will go down into the mountain alone, and I will come up out of the dark with the Bronze Fury at my heel. And after that, Alice, there will be no war left worth the name. There will only be the burning, and the counting of the dead, and the long quiet after.
And so the prince left the largest dragon in the world waiting on a cliff above the smoking sea, and he went down into the dark beneath the mountain alone, with a single torch in one hand and the other bare and open at his side, down past the bones of men who had tried this before him, until the heat pressed against his face like a living palm, and the stone glowed a sullen red in the deep places, and there, where no light had reached in 27 years, something the size of a war galley shifted in its sleep and opened one molten eye the colour of a forge at midnight. The low sound that came out of him was older than the war, older than the throne, older than the conquest itself. The prince did not draw his sword. He walked toward the eye, and when the great head came down to take his measure, he laid his bare palm flat against the hot bronze of the snout.
Lyceri, be still. You knew a king once, old one. You carried the wisest man who ever wore the crown for 50 years, and then you carried no one at all, and the world above forgot your name and called you a wild thing and left you to rot in the dark. I have not forgotten your name. I have come a very long way down into this mountain to say it. You are not a wild thing. You are a king's mount, and there are no more kings worth the carrying, so you will carry a storm instead. Lyceri, I am not afraid of you, and there is nothing left under the sky for you to fear, so be still and rise, and let us go and finish what my house began.
And the Bronze Fury was still. The great head pressed once into the prince's palm, steam curling up between his fingers, and 27 years of waiting ended in a single shared breath. And far above on the cliff, the largest dragon in the world lifted her head and screamed into the night, for she felt it too, the thing that had changed in the world, and did not yet know whether it was a rival or a brother.
She is screaming at him. The old grey queen of the sky. She does not like it, my prince, that you have gone down into the dark and brought home a brother for her.
She will learn to like it, or she will learn to share the sky, and either way she will obey. They are the only two left in all the world who could ever have answered one another, the last beast of the conquest and the mount of the old king, and now they both answer to me, and so there is no one left for either of them to challenge at all. Let her scream, Alice. Let the whole island hear her, and the fishing boats out on the water, and the men in the black towers across the sea. By the morning the realm will hear it too, and it will not understand the sound, and that is exactly as I would have it. Let them lie awake guessing what new thing in the dark could make Vhagar afraid.
By dawn, the men of Dragonstone who looked up saw a thing no living man had ever seen. Two immense shapes rising together out of the smoke of the Dragonmont. One vast and grey-green and ancient beyond reason, and one bronze and copper-crested and newly woken, and they turned together in the red morning and beat south for Harrenhal, and the shadow they threw across the sea below was a shadow doubled. When they came down upon the broken towers at dusk, the prince's mother was waiting on the battlements, and she watched the bronze giant fold its wings beside the grey, and her face in the failing light was the face of a woman who has just understood that her son has gone somewhere she can never follow.
You cannot ride them both at once, Aemond. Whatever you did down there in the dark, you have not changed the oldest truth there is. A man has one body. You will keep one giant, and the other will sit idle on a broken tower. And an idle dragon is only a dragon that some bolder, hungrier man has not yet dreamed of stealing.
No, mother. A man has one body, that is true, and I have not changed it. But a man can ride one dragon today and the other tomorrow, and let his enemies lie awake every single night of their lives guessing which of the two giants is coming for them in the morning. Or he can put a rider that he owns upon the second, a man whose every breath belongs to him, and bring both giants to the same field in the same hour, and let the whole of the realm look up and see two of the Green's dragons in one sky, when for half a year every soul in Westeros has prayed on its knees that there was only ever the one.
You would give the bronze fury to another man, after you walked alone into a cave that has killed 100 men, after whatever you did down there to bend a king's dragon to a prince's will. You would simply hand him up to some sworn sword and watch him beat away into the sky and trust him to come back.
I would lend him, mother, and there is a whole world inside that one small word, and you would be wise to hear it. The dragon answers to me. He took my hand in the dark and no others, and he will suffer a borrowed man on his back only because I have willed it so. And the day I unwill it, the man will fall. And the man himself answers to me as well, with his own life and his son's lives, and every poor thing he has ever called his own. He is not the rider, mother. He is the rein. I am the rider of both, and I simply hold one of the two reins at the length of my arm.
And who is this man you would trust, with the second largest dragon ever to draw breath? Name him to me. Tell me to my face that you have not just handed a weapon out of dead Valyria to some grasping hedge knight who will wake one morning, feel the size of the thing beneath him, and decide that he likes it.
There is a man in my host with the dragon's blood worn thin in his veins and a loyalty grown thick as a castle wall, and he has knelt to me through every defeat we have suffered and never once turned his head toward the door. He has no name that any singer would trouble to remember, and no lands that any lord would trouble to take, and no son in all the world but the one boy I can ruin utterly the instant he fails me. That, mother, is exactly the man to whom you give a borrowed crown of fire, a man who can lose everything and knows it and has chosen you anyway. The bronze fury will carry him because I command it, and he will carry the bronze fury where I point him, and between the two of them they will hold the whole of the riverlands shut in a bronze fist, while I take Vhagar and go and end this war at the root of it.
You speak of it as a sum scratched on a ledger. 2 dragons, 1 war, the cold arithmetic of giants, carry the one. But I have stood on this very wall and watched what one dragon does to a field of living men, Aemond. I have smelled it on the wind for a year, the smell that does not wash out. You speak of doubling it as if you were doubling the grain in a granary against a hard winter.
I am doubling a granary, mother. You have understood me better than you know. The grain is fear, and I mean to fill the realm with it, every barn and every cellar and every cradle of it, until there is no room left anywhere for hope to grow. You taught me this. When I was small and one-eyed and the whole court laughed behind their soft white hands, you took my chin in your fingers and you told me the world gives nothing at all to the soft and everything in it to the certain. I was very certain in the dark under that mountain. Be certain with me now, here, at the end. By the time the leaves turn brown, there will be no one left alive who is willing to fight me, and your other son can crawl out of his hidden room and wear his crown in peace, and you will never again lie awake in the night wondering whether we lose.
I have never once lain awake wondering whether we lose, Aemond. Not for a single night of this whole red year. I lie awake wondering what we will have made of ourselves by the morning that we finally win.
And so it was settled between them on the dark battlements. And in the days that followed, the prince did exactly as he had said, keeping the largest dragon in the world for himself, since she would suffer no other hand upon her now, and giving the bronze fury, freshly broken to his will, over to the most loyal and most fearless rider in all his host, a man of the dragon's thin blood, whose whole worth was that he had nothing the prince could not take away in an afternoon. And so for the first time since the Conqueror and his sisters rode out of the east, the Greens took the field with 2 of the 3 largest dragons in the world beneath a single banner. While this happened, far to the south, Rhaenyra's Blacks did the very thing they had always meant to do, and they seized King's Landing and sat the Queen upon the Iron Throne. For the city's fall had never once depended upon the Bronze Fury. And in the Red Keep, on the very night the city fell, a man stood reading a report by the light of a single guttering candle, and his face as he read it was the face of the most dangerous man in all the 7 kingdoms, beginning, for the first time in a very long time, to be afraid.
2. The raven says 2, niece. A bronze dragon over the riverlands at first light, burning out the supply roads below Harrenhal, every wagon and every granary that has fed your war for a year. And the great grey one, Vhagar herself, over the crown lands by the same noon, 100 leagues from the first, where no wing could carry a single rider between the 2 of them in a day. 2 giants in 2 skies on one morning.
It is a lie, uncle, meant to frighten us, and I will not be frightened by ink. A frightened lord doubles every dragon his frightened scouts report to him. The boy has Vhagar, and he has that cold, one-eyed cunning of his, and he can be made to seem to be in 2 places at once in the telling, for that is the whole of his craft, the seeming of things. But he cannot be in 2 skies in the flesh, and you know that better than any man who ever lived, you who have ridden the same single dragon your whole life long.
He does not have to ride them both, niece. That is the very thing you are not hearing, and it is the thing that is going to cost us this war, and your throne and both our lives, if you do not hear it soon. He has only to own them both. 1 giant he flies himself, where the killing is hardest and the glory greatest. The other he lends to some sworn man, and that man does not need to be the finest rider in the world. He does not need to be a rider worth a name at all. He needs only to be enormous and present and impossible to fly around. The 2nd largest dragon in the world does not have to win a single duel, niece. He has only to sit in a sky and dare any living thing to enter it.
Then we do what you have counselled from the start. We trap the one that matters. We lure the prince to the god's eye, where the water is wide and the sky has no cloud to hide a giant in. And we throw Caraxes against Vhagar in one last glorious cast of the dice. And the war ends with both of them sinking into the lake together, and my sons are avenged at the last, and I rule whatever ash is left.
That was the plan, niece, when there was 1 giant in the world to plan against. The whole of it rests on a single rotten beam, that the prince has only 1 dragon, and therefore only ever 1 move, and that if I can only fix that 1 place in the sky, I can fix the war. But you cannot trap a man at the god's eye who has no need to be at the god's eye. While I sit my dragon on that wide water, waiting to die beautifully for you against Vhagar, the bronze fury is over your riverlands, strangling every road that feeds your armies, and the prince himself is somewhere I have not even thought yet to look. He has cut the sky clean in 2, niece. He has split it straight down the middle with a knife, and we built our whole war, every plan and every prayer of it, for a sky with 1 giant in it.
Then what would you have me do, uncle? Rise from this throne I bled my sons white to win, and run? We hold the city. We hold the capital and the crown lands, and the loyalty of half the lords in the realm. Let him burn the river roads. Let him frighten the cattle and the small folk in their hovels. A throne is a throne, and I am sitting in it, and he is not.
A throne is a chair, niece. Hear me, for I have never lied to you, and I am too old now to begin. It is a cold and ugly chair of melted swords, and it sits in a city that 2 dragons can reach between a sunrise and a supper, and we are perched upon it, congratulating ourselves on the comfort of the cushion, while the man with 2 giants decides at his leisure where to begin. And he will not begin with the city, because he is cleverer than that and far crueler than that. He will fly to Dragonstone and hunt the wild dragons in their lairs in the dark before you can ever call a single bastard to climb upon one, and the sowing of the seeds that you are counting on, the one thing in all the world that might have evened the sky between us, when it comes there will be nothing left beneath that mountain to sow. He will leave you with the dragons you began this war with, and only those against the 2 largest dragons that have ever drawn a breath, flying as a matched and hunting pair. And that is not a war any longer. That is a countdown, and if you go very quiet, here, on your beautiful chair, I think that even you can hear it ticking.
This was the cruelest turn of the whole alternate dance, and the bloodworm, who was at his most dangerous in all his life precisely when he was losing it, had read the thing true before any other living soul. For the prince did exactly as Demon feared. While the Bronze Fury and his borrowed rider settled over the riverlands like a second sky, and held the supply roads and the river castles shut by being only enormous and present and impossible to ignore, the prince himself took the largest dragon in the world and flew her not at the city and not at the throne, but at the island, at the smoking root of the whole rebellion, and he came over the Dragonmont in the grey before dawn, and the witch who flew at his back put her mouth close to his ear and spoke a thing she had never spoken to him before, which was a warning.
You mean to kill them, not to break them to the saddle, not to add them to your hoard, but to find them in their lairs and burn them where they sleep. I have watched your face do a great many cruel things, my prince, and I have loved it for most of them, but I have never once seen it set itself to do this. You would kill dragons. Your own kind will name it a sin blacker than kinslaying. The Septons will say there is a special silence kept in the deepest of the seven hells, just for the one man who murders the last magic in the world.
My own kind are dying, Alice, every one of them. And they are dying because for a whole generation they left weapons of war lying in the dark under a mountain for any base-born boy with the right thin drop of blood to wander up and pull out of the mud. Sea Smoke, Silverwing, Sheep Stealer, the cannibal in his black cave, every single one of them is a separate war that I would otherwise have to fight, handed away for nothing at all to the first kitchen scullion who is hungry enough not to be afraid. A dragon that you do not ride is a dragon that your enemy one day will, and I would far rather there were fewer dragons in a world that is entirely mine than more dragons in a world that belongs to anyone who can climb.
And when it is done, when the last egg has gone cold in the last lair, and the last wild thing is only bones upon the mountain, and there is nothing left in all the wide world but Vhagar, and the Bronze Fury, and the long silence that comes after, what will you have then, my prince, that is worth the half of what you spent to buy it?
I will have the only 2 dragons left in the world, witch, and a realm that knows past all hope and all argument that it can never take the sky back from me, not in my life, and not in my sons' lives, and not in theirs. That is the only thing that was ever worth anything at all. Men do not bend to crowns, Alice. I have worn one for a year, and I have watched them not bend. They do not bend to blood or to right or to the 7 gods or to the words a maester reads them out of a book. They bend to fire only and ever to fire, and I will be the last man left alive who owns the fire entire.
And the children, my prince? When the small folk of the island tell this tale to their children's children, they will not say the prince ended a war. They will say a one-eyed man went down into the holy dark, where the dragons sleep and slew the last wonders left in the world, while they cried out in their lairs and could not understand why. That is the song they will sing of you, not the Conqueror, the dragon killer, the man who made the magic end.
Let them sing it. A song is only fear that has lost its teeth and learned to rhyme. I would rather be the dragon killer in a world that is wholly mine than the dragon lover in a grave. And so, I think, would any man who has ever truly held a thing he was afraid to lose. You loved a dragon once in your way before you came to me. Tell me you would not have done the same to keep the sky.
Then go and own it, my prince. But I have looked into the fire too, longer than you have. And I will tell you the one true thing I have learned in all my years of looking. The fire does not love the hand that holds it. It only waits.
So the prince went down into the lairs with the largest dragon in the world at his command. And what was done there is not a thing the histories care to dwell upon, for he hunted the wild dragons of Dragonstone one by one in the dark places where they slept. And when it was finished, there was nothing left under the mountain for any bastard to climb. The sowing of the seeds, which in the war we know was the Blacks' great desperate gamble and very nearly turned the whole of it, never happened at all, for there was nothing left to sow. No Hugh hammer rose upon the Bronze Fury, for the Bronze Fury already answered to the prince. No Ulf the White, no base-born boy on Sea Smoke. The Queen's wings were what they had been at the very start, her yellow Syrax and the bloodworm, and a scattering of half-grown dragons ridden by frightened children, and against the two largest dragons that had ever lived, flying as a hunting pair. That was the countdown the blood worm had heard ticking in the dark. But the dance had never once gone the way the strong expected it to, and Aemond Targaryen, with his back to the wall and his war running like water through his scarred old fingers, did the one thing the prince's beautiful machine had not been built to bear, for he saw the single flaw at the very heart of it before any other living man. 2 dragons meant 2 targets, and one of the 2 was not flown by the deadliest rider alive, but by a man the prince merely trusted. So Aemond did not fly to the god's eye. He flew, lean and blood-red, and screaming out of the high white cloud, straight for the bronze fury over the riverlands, and as the borrowed rider hauled the great bronze head around to meet him, the blood worm came down upon them like the wrath of an older and a hungrier age.
You are not the prince. I can see it in the way you sit him, in the way your borrowed hands shake on a beast 3 sizes too large for the likes of you. You are a borrowed sword on a borrowed dragon, and the man who lent you the both of them is 100 leagues from here and cannot save you now. Do you know who I am, Seed? Do you know whose blade this is at my hip, that I have carried since before your father got you on some tavern girl? I've killed from the back of a dragon more times than you have flown one. I made my peace with dying in this saddle when you were still shoeing other men's horses for a copper. Come down off your stolen mountain and let me show you, before you die, what the bloodworm does to small men who reach up so far above their birth.
The bronze fury was the larger by half, and the larger dragon very nearly always wins, but a frightened rider makes a great dragon hesitate, and hesitation is the precise, narrow gap in the world that a man like Aemond Targaryen had lived inside his whole life long, and so the blood worm tore into the bronze throat the way he had always meant to tear into Vhagar's, and for one long and terrible moment, it seemed the prince's second dragon would die before it had ever truly mattered, and then a shadow fell across both of the tangled giants, a shadow vaster than either of them, for Aemond too had planned for one dragon when there were always 2.
You looked for me at the god's eye, uncle. You looked for me on the wide water where the duel would be fair and the song would be sweet. I was never going to give you a fair duel or a sweet song or one single thing that you wanted. I was here. I was always here in the high sun above my own dragon, where no eye thinks to look, waiting for you to forget that there were 2.
For the prince had never once meant to leave the bronze fury unguarded, and he had shadowed his own second dragon from a height no living eye had thought to watch, and the moment the blood worm committed himself wholly and finally to the kill, Vhagar fell upon him from above like the side of a mountain coming loose from its roots. It was over quickly, and there was no glory in it at all, for the 2 great dragons folded the bloodworm between them, the way 2 wolves take a third, and Caraxes died as few dragons of the dance ever died, not in a fair duel beneath an open sky, but caught and crushed and ambushed. And Aemond Targaryen, the most dangerous man in all the 7 kingdoms, fell with his dragon into the reeds of the river country and did not rise from them.
There it is, uncle. The death you wanted and not the one you chose. You wanted to die beautifully, did you not, in a fair song on the wide green water, the 2 greatest swords of the age trading blow for blow until the lake took us both, and instead you die face down in the mud with the reeds in your teeth and a borrowed man's dragon standing on your spine because you could not stop yourself counting to 1 when the answer in the sky above you was always, always 2. You were the last man in the world I had cause to fear, Demon. There is no one now. I almost think I shall miss you. There is no sport at all in a hunt where the only clever beast is already in the mud.
In the war we know, Aemond and the prince killed each other over the green water of the god's eye, and the dance ground on for long red months bereft of its 2 finest swords. In this telling, the blood worm died alone in the mud, and the prince flew home with 2 dragons still whole in the sky, and by every measure a maester would trouble to keep. The war was won. The queen sat a chair of melted swords in a city she could no longer hope to hold against 2 giants she could never hope to match. And here is where the story turns from a war into a tragedy, for the prince brought both dragons over King's Landing to make an end of it, and the small folk who poured into the streets and turned their faces up to the morning did not see a deliverance descending out of the sky. They saw the thing the people of that doomed city would come in time to fear above any king or any crown, the shadow of wings, and the shadow was doubled, and on the high battlements of the Red Keep, the prince's mother stood beside him and watched the 2 giants turn their slow circles above the only home she had ever known.
You have won, Aemond, by everything I was ever taught to count in this world. You have won the most complete victory in all the long history of our house. Every rival you ever feared is dead and cold. Your nephews and your cousins and your uncle, the whole bright generation of them swept out of the sky by your hand. So tell me, since you are so very clever and so very certain, tell me why I am standing on this cold wall watching my own son circle his own city, and why it does not feel like a triumph at all. Why does it look, from up here where I stand, exactly like a funeral?
Because they have understood us at last, Mother. Look down at them. Look at all those small upturned faces filling the square, going pale in the doubled shadow. For 100 years our house told them a kind and comfortable lie that the dragons served the realm, that the fire was a shield the gods had given us to hold over their heads out of love. And tonight they are looking up at two giants where they have only ever, in their darkest dreams, seen one. And they are learning the truth of the thing at the last. The dragons never served the realm. The realm has always served the dragons. We simply, for 100 soft and lying years, never made it plain enough for the smallest of them to see.
And you believe that is your victory. You believe the lesson you have carved into them tonight, with two giants where there was one, is a lesson that ends with you safe and warm upon a throne. I knew the old king at the end of his days, Aemond. I sat with Jacaerys when his great mind was going out like a candle. And do you know the wisest thing that wise man ever did in all his 50 years? He made the realm forget that it had anything at all to fear from us. He flew his Vermithor to bring peace, not to teach a lesson. You have spent a whole war teaching them to remember the very thing he spent a lifetime helping them to forget. That is not a thing, my son, that any man should be proud to have taught.
I am not proud, Mother. I am finished. There is a difference. And after this long and bloody year, you of all the souls alive should be able to tell the two of them apart in the dark. Pride is for men who still have a thing left to prove to someone. I have nothing left to prove to anyone. There is no one in the sky to answer me, and no one on the ground who dares, and no rival left breathing anywhere beneath the whole wide arch of heaven. There is nothing left for me to do, Mother, nothing in all the world. I have only to land.
Then land. Land in your capital, and sit your brother's broken throne, and rule the silence you have made of the world. But hear me once more, Aemond. This once, the last counsel your mother will ever give you. For I'm tired to my bones, and I think you stop listening to anyone living somewhere down in that mountain. A dragon in the sky is a god. Men kneel to gods and fear them, and pray each night that the god is looking somewhere else. But a man on the ground is only a man, my son, however many dragons he owns. And there will come a morning, I have seen it in the way they look at you, when they stop seeing the god in the sky and start seeing only the man beneath the dragons. And on that morning, all your fire will not be enough, because there will be more of them than there has ever been of you. There always, always were.
Then there will be more fire, Mother. That is the only answer I've ever had to too many of them, and in all my life, it has never once failed me. When they come, and you are right, one grey day they will come, I will burn them, and the ones left standing will learn the lesson over again. And the realm will be quiet for another year, and another after that, and I will buy my sons 100 years of quiet, one fire at a time if I must.
And when the fire runs out, Aemond, when the last dragon is old, and your sons are not the riders you were, and there are still 100,000 of them in that city below us, and they have spent all those quiet, bought years remembering, you cannot burn a memory. That is the one thing in all the world that fire cannot touch, and you have given them the worst memory a people ever carried.
Yes. That was always the part you did not think hard enough upon, you would say to me now. But I have thought upon it, Mother. I simply decided that 100 years of bought quiet was worth more than the bill that comes due after I am dead. Every king who ever lived made that same wager. I only made it twice as large.
And the Queen's end, when it came at last, was not a battle, for there was nothing left to give battle with, and it was not a duel, for there was no one left to duel, and the histories of this alternate dance would record only that Rhaenyra Targaryen died, as so very many of her line had died in those red years, beneath wings, an end delivered out of the empty air by the very magic her house had ridden to all its greatness. And for the first time since the doom fell upon Valyria, one single man held two of the three greatest dragons that had ever drawn breath, and there was no rival anywhere beneath the sky who could answer them, and he should, by every accounting in the world, have been the most powerful Targaryen since the Conqueror himself. Instead, he became only the most feared, and in Westeros, those are very far from being the same throne, for the lords of the realm had watched a man burn his own cousins out of a storm, and kill his own uncle by an ambush in the high sun, rather than by honest battle, and slaughter the last wild dragons in the world in their sleep to keep the whole of the fire for himself. And the faith named him kinslayer from every sept in the 7 kingdoms. And the great houses who had backed the Greens out of cold and weary duty looked up at 2 dragons circling a ruined capital, and asked themselves the one question that no amount of fire has ever been able to burn away. say. If he will do this to his own blood, what in the seven hells will he do to mine? Far in the cold north, in the great grey hall of Winterfell, the young lord of the north read of a war won by a man on 2 dragons, and he did not despair, and he did not bend. He set the scroll down upon the long table before his silent lords, and he counted.
2 dragons. Aye, the raven says 2, and the boy down south reckons that closes the matter. Reckons the sum is done and the ledger ruled off, and the north can come to heel now like a beaten hound. So let us do for him the arithmetic that he has not troubled himself to do. 2 dragons. And how many castles, my lords, can 2 dragons hold at one time? How many roads can 2 dragons patrol between a dawn and a dusk? How many fields of winter wheat can 2 dragons reap before the snows come down and bury them? How many quarrels between how many stubborn lords can 2 dragons hear and settle? How many empty bellies can 2 dragons fill? How many cold hearths can 2 dragons light? A dragon can burn a city to the black ground in a single afternoon, and I do not doubt it for a heartbeat. But a dragon cannot rule that burned city for so much as one morning after, cannot hold a single market or mend a single wall or keep one child in it fed. And every dragon that has ever flown, my lords, in the end, must come down out of the sky and land. And the moment it lands, it is nothing in all the world, but a very large and very tired animal, sitting in a country full of men who have learned watching it exactly how to hate it. So we will not march south to die beautifully under his wings, the way half the lords in the realm seem to dream of dying. We will do what the north has always done since before there were dragons and after they are gone. We will wait. We will hold the cold ground that is ours, and we will let the winter and the small folk and the slow grinding patience of the earth do to him what no sword and no spear and no dragon of ours could ever do. He thinks he has a year, this one-eyed boy with his 2 giants. He does not even have that. Every single day he keeps 2 dragons in the sky is another day 100,000 frightened souls in that city look up into a doubled shadow and learn to hate him a little more. And hatred, my lords, is the one harvest in all the world that never fails in any season, in any weather. Send no ravens south. Simply wait and keep the north fed and keep the north whole. The boy on 2 dragons has already lost his war. He is only the very last man alive to know it.
This was the one truth that not even 2 dragons could change, the truth the whole long bloody dance had been teaching the realm in fire from the first day of it to the last, that dragons win battles and lose wars, because a war is decided in the end upon the ground that a dragon must always, eventually, return to. The prince held the most terrifying weapon in the history of the world, and he held it twice over, and still he could not be in 2 villages in the same hour, and still he could not make one single reach lord love him. And still he could not stop a city of 100,000 frightened and starving and finally fearless souls from waking one grey morning and deciding, all of them together, that they had nothing left in all the world to lose. In the war, we know, the small folk of King's Landing stormed the dragon pit and tore 5 dragons apart with their bare hands and their kitchen knives, because the things in the sky had taught them, at the last, to hate. In this telling, the prince had taught that very lesson twice as hard and twice as loud, and a city taught a lesson like that does not stay afraid forever. It becomes something far worse than afraid. It becomes certain. And on the highest tower of Harrenhal, in the last quiet hour before the thing that was coming came, the prince stood with the witch at his side, the largest dragon in the world, coiled below him on one broken tower, and the bronze fury upon another. And there were campfires upon the horizon that had not been there the night before, and they were closer than the night before. And the witch gave him the last prophecy she would ever give.
I have seen the end of it, my prince. I have seen it in the fires and in the still water and behind my own eyes when I sleep. And it is always the very same end, down every single road that I follow. A great stone pit, open to the sky, and it is full to the brim with dead dragons, every dragon in all the world lying broken at the bottom of it, and the men who killed them are standing upon the bones with hammers in their hands, and the blood of giants drying on their faces, and they are not afraid any longer, not of you, not of fire, not ever again. And on a chair of black iron above the silence, there sits a boy. Not one dragon left in all the wide world. Just a boy, and a chair, and the long quiet after the burning.
Which boy? Give me the name. If I have the name, I can find the boy, and if I can find the boy, I can end it before the pit is ever dug, before a single hammer is lifted. Whose boy is he? Mine. I have sons. The queen had none left living. Tell me the name, Alice, only the name, and I will fly tonight, both of them, and there will be no boy and no pit and no silence.
Does it matter whose boy he is, my prince? You are still not hearing the shape of the thing I am telling you. In every road I have walked behind my own closed eyes, it is the same boy on the same black chair in the same dead silence. And the dragons are always lying broken in the pit, and the men are always standing on the bones. And it does not matter at all which way you choose to fly tonight, or which of your two giants you choose to ride, or how many more wild things you go down into the dark to murder in their sleep. He is the boy who rules the silence after the fire. And the fire, my prince, the fire is the thing that you brought. You are never the end of this story. You are only the reason that it ends.
Then I will rule the silence myself, and there will be no boy and no pit, because I will not die. Do you hear me, witch? I have the only 2 dragons left in the world. I have killed every man and every beast that could have stood against me. What is there left under heaven that can put me in a grave and a boy on my chair? Tell me what it is, and I will fly out tonight and burn it before it draws another breath.
Time, my prince. Only time. The one thing in all the world that does not fear fire and cannot be ridden down out of the sky. You will grow old, the way Vhagar grew old. Your dragons will grow old, and the hatred you have planted in 100,000 hearts will not grow old at all. It will be young and strong and patient long after you are dust, and it will wait for the morning your fire finally gutters. And on that morning it will not need a dragon of its own. It will only need hammers and hands, and the certainty you spent your whole life teaching it. There is no flying out tonight to burn that. You planted it yourself. In every shadow you doubled.
Then let the boy have his chair and his silence and his quiet world. If a child must one day sit a throne with no dragon left in all the world, let it be a world I made quiet with my own hands, and let the silence be the peace I brought him one giant at a time. That is not nothing, Alice. A father who hands his son a still and ordered world has given him a great deal more than mine ever thought to give me.
Spoken like a man who has never once had to sit inside a silence he did not make. Go to sleep, my prince. The fires will still be burning in the morning. They always are. That is the whole of the trouble with fire. You can light it in an afternoon, and it will burn for 100 years after the hand that struck it is cold.
So picture him there at the last of it, the deadliest dragon rider who ever lived, 2 of the 3 greatest dragons in all the world, answering to his blood alone, every rival he had ever feared lying dead and cold beneath the earth. Lucerys and Jacaerys and Rhaenys and Rhaenyra and Daemon, every last one of them gone down into the dark ahead of him, and by any tally a conqueror would trouble to keep. Aemond Targaryen had won the most complete victory in the long red history of his house, and it bought him nothing in the end but a little time, because the age of dragons was never going to be ended by another dragon. It was going to be ended by what the dragons had taught the small and the frightened, and the countless people who lived their whole lives beneath the wings, and no one in the whole of the dance taught that one terrible lesson harder, or twice as well, as the one-eyed prince who went down alone into the dark beneath the mountain, and refused to come back up into the light with only a single giant. The histories of this alternate dance would not remember him as the man who saved House Targaryen. They would remember him as the man who proved past any argument that 2 dragons could win an entire war and still lose a whole world in the winning of it. And when the last of them finally fell, the throne that remained was the very same throne our own timeline arrives at by a longer and a slower road, a chair of black iron in a room that smells of old ash, and upon it a king who has learned the last hard lesson of the dragon's long age, that the only thing more dangerous than having no dragons at all is being the man everyone remembers as having owned far too many. That's my view of this alternate timeline, the dance of the dragons, as it might have burned if Aemond Targaryen had ridden into it with 2 giants instead of 1. He would have won every battle that mattered, and he would have ended the age of dragons faster and more surely than any man who came before him. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and endless possibilities, and we are here to uncover them with you. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.